Welcome to a Too Tall Toby practice model built in IronCAD. This is a Hex Lid dated 6/9/2024. Model's not too complex here. We just have an overall length to our center point as 100. We have a height of 40 and an overall width of 90. So we'll start with that, add our cylinder to it, and then we just need to do some pocket geometry here. So to create this inner pocket, we have a back pocket here, and then some counterbore holes that we need to drill into this with some blends on the corners, all at 8 millimeters. And last, we have this helix that goes through here that's 20 from the vertical edge to vertical edge. Excuse me. So we'll go ahead and build this in IronCAD. Fairly easy to do. We'll probably do everything inside of here with just standard features. We'll do maybe one edit cross section in here to modify some geometry, but other than that, fairly simple models. Let's go ahead and start with IronCAD. And to start, we'll start with an extrude. Again, you can always use our extrude commands and sketches if you like, just showing you an alternative way to design. So we'll go ahead and hit this to 100 on our outside handle. Our width on this again is 90 and our height is 40 inside of there. So this gives us our starting point for our geometry. And now we can just drag and drop another cut shape on here. And this is going to do our pockets. So one of the things I'm going to do is move this out to our back edge and set that overall length to be 75 in there. So that's set to 75. So now we can just come in here and say, I'm double clicking on that by the way, and saying subtract 10 millimeters from that to give us our offset or our wall thickness on that. I'm going to right click on the side handles because we want to set that to be in there. They call it out as 40 for that. And our bottom handle, we've got it as 27.778, but it's actually going to be 30 because it's 40 high minus the 10, so that needs to be 30 for that. So that gives us our starting point for that cut. We'll drag another cut on here. I'm going to put it right on the center point of this so I can use it as reference. So I'm going to bring this back to this edge because we know both of them are at the same length there, but the outside edge is basically the width of this model minus 10 on each side, so minus 20 on both of those to do that. So if we want it again, let's do that again. So I hold the shift key down here, snap it to there, move your arrow key over, minus 20 millimeters, and hit enter. That will give you your distance. So just kind of show you how I was doing that. And then I pull my bottom handle down to snap to there. And then we know the depth of this. We don't know this overall depth of this pocket. We just know that this distance needs to be a certain distance from here, which they call out as 25.5. So that will give us our initial pocket. So this is our 75 edge, so we just want to remove this extra geometry on the top. So we can just select onto this face. We have a handle that we can just pull to create another cut shape to cut that out, and then we can use our profile handles in 3D to actually bring that down to the bottom side. Now, notice at this point I didn't have my cylinder there. So I forgot to add that, so I'll just go ahead and drag and drop that on there now. I'm going to reverse the extrude direction. I'm going to pull that all the way through. And it's already got a height or a diameter of 40, so that's correct. But now I put my cut in place already, so what I can do is select that cut and right click on it and say apply last, so it can cut that geometry out. So easy way to deal with the history order in IronCAD, just an alternate way to adjust it to the last on that feature. So now that we've got that, we need to create this extra shape, which is basically the cylinder, and this edge comes down at 45 with an 8 millimeter thickness on that. And one way to do that is to use this existing face geometry and just pull that in. And I'm going to set that value to 8 millimeters to set that. And now I can edit that cross section by hitting Alt-E or hitting right click and clicking edit cross section. So this flipped me upside down here. So if you wanted to see our profile, so it's actually got me upside down here. So I can rotate this around if I want to get it back to this orientation. I can now go, oops, sorry about that. I got a toolbar there. I can say, look at this face here, and that will give me my orientation. If I don't want to see the existing geometry, I can hide all that geometry, and I can see this profile itself. Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to maintain this tangency here. So we want to make this tangency because we need to make this angle. I also want to fix some existing geometry, as I don't want this geometry to change. I want to make sure that it stays the same radius, and I want this edge at the bottom to stay put where it's at, actually. And then we can just get rid of this curve over here. And now we can see that we can just drag this around and it maintains our arc. And now I just need to define that angle. So I can just place it in here, use my Smart Dimension tool to put a dimension from here to here, and set that to 45 in there. So that's basically the shape that we want. We don't need this extra geometry, so we can trim that by hitting the S key, hitting the Trim Curve command, and just left clicking and dragging and cutting those sections out. So that will give us our shape. We can hit Finish to get that. Now we need to mirror it to the other side, so we'll just do a mirror feature command. That's already selected. We just select the center point here of our edge, and that will put it on the other side for us to give us our other shape. Alright, so now we've got this basic profile here, so let's go ahead and do some extra geometry. So we know we have some blends to add on this, and we also have our hex to add to that. So let's go ahead and start with our blends. We'll go ahead and select our edges here and our outside edges back here. Sorry, that was just my zooming there. Let's right click on those edges that we've got selected. I'm holding Shift key to pick all those, and we're going to set it to 8 millimeters and hit enter to apply those. Next, we want to add that the hex cut here, and we can do that through our polygon folder here. If you double click on that, you can see there's a cut polygon, and there's a bunch of different shapes as well. But we use the cut polygon to drag and drop that on there. And right now it's going edge to edge is not what we want, so we're going to just rotate that 90 degrees because it has a call out for that value to be 20. So go ahead and type that, and that'll make it 20 from edge to edge, and we can just pull this back through that part. And just to verify that, you can hold your Shift key down and select these two edges. You can see it's 20 millimeters down at the bottom to verify your thickness. All right, so now we've got that. Let's go down to our bottom here, and we need to build our counterbore. So we'll go back to our catalogs, and we have our IronCAD mechanical tools, which have holes here. And I'm going to actually drop right on the center point of this bottom edge. Now the reason is we don't know the distance from this edge here inwards. We know it from here. We know there's 55 on both sides, and we know it needs to be 18 millimeters in from that back edge. So I'm going to use that center point as my reference. And we have a counterbore, I have an 8 diameter hole that's through, and a 16 counterbore with a 5 millimeter depth inside there. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And what we want to do first is just move it in 18 millimeters. So I'm just going to drag that with our translation handle, hit 18 millimeters. And now I'm going to right click and drag with this handle, and I'm going to say link here because I'm going to make 2 of these. We're going to say we want copy one of these. We're going to say 27, or actually it's 55. So it's the total distance divided by 2, which is 27.5. So you can either type it in or just do the math inside there. Either way works. And we're going to repeat this in the opposite direction. So we're going to make one link and repeat it in the other direction and hit OK. So the nice thing about links, so these 3 are identical geometry, but they're not a parent-child relationship, meaning I can delete the parent one, the other ones remain. They're not a true parent-child where they all delete inside of like a pattern feature, for example. That's a nice way to use our link features to build those geometries. So that gives us our starting, our counterbore holes in the right location for us. And if you want to do some measurements inside of here, you can also use the Smart Dimension tool to say, hold the Shift key down to get the center point to center point. That's 55, and that back side is 18 there. So if you just wanted to refer to that geometry to verify that it's correct. So next, we've got our geometry here. We need to do our cutout here. So let's go ahead and do our cylinder. We're going to do a cut cylinder on this. On this case, it's going to be right on the center since this is 40, and it says it's supposed to be 20 from the top, so it's in the center. And we know the diameter of this thing, if we select on this, the diameter of this is supposed to be 14 millimeter radius, so that's supposed to be 28 for that. And the depth of this, we hit enter one more time. We see our back handles highlighted there. We're going to set the depth of that as to be 4 millimeters for that pocket. So now we just need to do the vertical straight edges here. We can drop a rectangle on here to do that, or you can edit the cross section either way. So if we do an edit cross section, again, right click and edit the cross section. Now this kind, I didn't know which way I'm sitting here, so I want to do the cutout from the opposite direction in this bottom area. So we can see that's what we want to do is down this direction. We can draw a rectangle from here, from our center point, out this way, and to cut it, and we need to make that 28 for the width on that, and hit OK. And now we can just hit our S key to do our trim command because we want that geometry gone, and hit finish. So that will build us our pocket for us. And last, we need to add a hole right on that center point of that, which has a diameter of 12 for that, and it doesn't really matter how far it's extruding because it's not cutting anything behind it. So that will give us our geometry inside of there. Again, everything should be pretty easy to measure. If you like to use the edges, you can hold Shift key to get those. Those are 10 millimeter thickness. We know this face and this face down here should have a 10 millimeter thickness offset. This edge here and here's 10 millimeter offset, and this is our pocket. So if we want to get that pocket, which is 4 millimeter, we can see that as well. So just a couple ways to verify your model when you're doing that is just using the status bar and those edges to give you that value. If we select our model, go to our properties, we have a mass density of 7800, which gives us a 1412 mass for that model. So that's all it takes to build it. Hopefully you enjoyed. We'll see you on the next one.